You are listening to Party Nerds Weekly.
What's going on, world? You're here for another episode of the Party Nerds podcast. I'm your host today, James Grandmaster Fact Voice. And with us always is an esteemed panel of some of our closest peoples. And note that Ralphie and Haas have switched roles. He's now wearing sunglasses in the light for no obvious reason whatsoever. As you can see, Ralphie, Jorge, Haas, meeting in my bedroom. We're all here, everybody. We lost Ralphie. We lost Ralphie. All right. So today we wanted to get into the entire phrase of a article that I saw in the Guardian this week. And no, I say that because I fucking read. And so there was an article by Manuela Lazic, which was basically putting out the description of who needs film critics when studios can be sure influencers will praise their films. So it's almost teetering into this role of social media has completely annihilated the movie critic. And now it takes place for these, I guess, movie studios are now hiring through their PR companies influencers to stack seats in films and get early reviews out before movie critics can see the movie themselves and annihilate it themselves. So what says you? Anybody?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and at least say I don't necessarily feel as if the movie critics have necessarily been, let's just say, dealt with based off of, again, influence and stuff like that, because, you know, if I really have to take it into a larger, broader prospect, back then, what do you think we had? We had newspapers that was still kind of broadcasting the message. You know what I'm saying? You know, you still had Ebert and Roper, who were at least esteemed movie critics, that even had like 30-minute segments on, I forget what the channel was, because, you know, I was like 4 years old at that time. But you know,
I give you big props for saying that, by the way. Siskel and Ebert, I would have accepted Ruber. What would you say?
Ebert and Roper.
Ebert, I will accept both. That I'm glad you said that. Go ahead.
Thank you. But you know, you have to think that in the essence that, yeah, you know, although the platform back then wasn't as broad, you still had that. Now, like I said, you fast forward it, you know, technology plays a big part in our generation, let's just say, and it's just a much broader aspect for others to, let's say, have that sense of entitlement to influence, as we've kind of mentioned, like us, you know, on the movie. And, you know, now, yeah, we're in a role where it's like, you know, we're kind of already kind of green thumbing things without giving any type of feeling, let's say that.
Okay, Haas, I'll pose the same question to you. Do you feel like social media has disallowed anybody to have critical thinking towards any films?
I don't think it's disallowed, but I think it's opened up the door for more opinions from different type of people, like movie critics. Like he brought up, you know, Cisco, Ebert and everybody. Like they were we back in the day, we knew who like the typical movie critics were, and if you you read articles and stuff, like they're basically like reporters, right? Yeah. They're basically like reporters. But now, like, you're opening it up to like a larger spectrum of all kinds of different people, younger people, because the movie critics I used to watch or read back in the day, they were like older. They were out of touch, right? So, and then like certain movies, like if they go review like Menace to Society, like I can't really take their opinion for it because they don't really understand the culture. So now you'll get somebody in any culture. If there's a film that represents a certain culture, we'll get somebody that is more related to the culture, and then you can get a more like efficient opinion about it, right? So I think I think it's better because if you're only getting it from one a certain person's type of view, like then like and you can't relate to it, like I just don't think it works. So I think it's better, actually. To me, I think it's better these days where you could say it's influencers, but once an influencer is reviewing a movie, like now you're a critic too.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. And for me personally, for me to go see a movie, like sometimes I wanna check out some reviews before I get out there. But most of the times, if I'm going to the movies anyway, my heart's already, I'm already set on that movie. So it doesn't really matter if I see bad reviews or not. Like, I'm eventually going to have to see it for myself, right? But I do take I take those opinions with a little bit more than a grain of salt. Like, it'll be in the back of my head as I'm watching the movie, but at the end of the day, it's not going to stop me from going to the movies or not. So I think it's better though.
Wait, so I have a question, guys. What qualifies to be a movie critic? Do you have to go to certain educational school or get hired by WB? I don't know.
So I looked it up recently, and of course, the people who have backgrounds, of course, in journalism, because they do essentially are looking into journalistic jobs outside of college. So they do write editorials for papers and everything like that. Not even papers nowadays, because most of that's digital media. And then you got some people that are basically enabled through public relations, work in marketing. So they're enabled to be in these type of doors open for them to be at movie films premieres, listening parties if they're doing it for music, or so on and so forth. But that's generally like, if you're doing that for a long time, you might get sectored into this genre where your job is to critique film. And some of them have enabled themselves to learn cinema, learn techniques. They're figuring out plot holes immediately. But the thing is, now you see that almost in the same breath with a lot of influencers out there. You see studies done on YouTube pages. So influencers are also catching up because they're figuring out things themselves through the editing that they're seeing from watching the movie, to where you almost watch the movie and literally a YouTube video will pop up where they're doing almost the exact same thing verbatim that would have been read in a newspaper or digital media website, where they're pointing it out physically because they've done the editing, they're doing the framing, they're pointing out the plot holes, they're figuring out who's missing, they're doing all that. And it's all part of the culture if you actually love it. Now, I asked this, has Comic-Con, for instance, because we've done press at Comic-Cons before, are they the gold standard of basically the introduction of social media influencers covering an event like that? Because they do a lot of film premieres at Comic-Cons, and a lot of things that are done with toys and everything like that. And then some new shit's going to happen. They even do the coverage of maybe like Marvel Comics or DC Comics and the scheduling that's going to come out later on in the year. And they only invite people who are doing comic book YouTube channels, who basically have a whole comic buildup of a large following of people who follow specifically their shit, whether it's anime, movies, comic books, etc., etc. Is comic book basically, I would say, is the precursor for all of this stuff type of happening, because it's the first time I've seen it. No, yeah, no,
Yeah.
Jorge, as long as you've been doing it, do you feel like the only people that got invited press wise, did it feel like it wasn't a bunch of old motherfuckers? It was literally us.
It was just us. Of course, the partners were asked to go check out these, I guess the special access, and then other accounts, who people just like us, minorities, same age group, whatever, So yeah, which is great. We didn't see any old guys or whatever with their clipboards and looking for every.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's absolutely true. So so here's another question. Most preview movies that are basically out nowadays, the ones that more than likely we get invited to, they're now being packed with so many influencers, because it's now leaving film critics unable to see the film early. So the first reactions that you get from a film are strictly from social media. Do you think that that's a good thing or a bad thing?
That's a great thing. And it's a great thing because everybody's on social media. So in some way, shape, or form. If you're not on every app, you're on at least one, and that's the way. That's just the trend moving forward. Like, again, we brought it up. Like, we used to read articles and stuff like that. Like, it's not going down like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, in a way, a little bit. Like I still read reviews, but at the end of the day, the younger generations, they're gonna get it off of YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, stuff like that. So at the end of the day, like the influencers are going to continue to be important, especially in the what I want to call it, the it's for certain movies, like your action movies, your cult movies, stuff like that. Like, that's where the influencers are. But if you're talking about having like, if they came out with like a Beaches 2 sequel, like, I don't know how many influencers they're going to use for that. Like, it's probably going to be more traditional of a review, right? So it just, I guess it depends on the genre, the type of film that's coming out too. Like, because not every film is getting influencers, or not every studio is getting influencers to get every movie. So it's certain movies. It's the big movies, the ones that they project to make a lot of money, that might have influence on society. So I think it's the bigger the movie, the more the influencers. They want to reach the masses. You see that these studios post-COVID, they're not generally making the money that off of films that they were before COVID. So it's even more important for them to reach out through social media and reach these influencers, get them to go to the movie, try to entice them to give good reviews so they can come out and so people can come out, spend their money, and come back repeatedly.
What about movie studios paying these influencers to alter a persuasion? James, what do you think?
Well, that's the thing. That's pretty much the business that we're in right now.
Dirty politics.
There's no advanced screenings for the press, right? So right now it's all being delved into social media. So then now there's pretty much you're going to a movie preview, you're watching the movie, and then you're giving directions. Your directives are to share your positive reaction to the movie when the embargo goes up. So then we go outside and we take our pictures. Just saw Blue Beetle. Ain't nobody like, just saw Transformers. There's nobody like instantaneously like saying that was ass. And no, sometimes we go to those movie previews and they'll have camera people there and they were like, hey, what'd you guys think of the movie? And it's almost like you're put on the spot. Oh, the action was off the chain. You ain't never had nobody be like, yo, that shit was ass. I would never do that bullshit again. Don't you ever invite me back here to a Transformers movie ever. Because once again, you give out a negative review, you might not get invited back. And if you're getting paid as an influencer for a specific type of movie, you're almost disallowing yourself to be critical.
Yeah, it's definitely, I don't like to see that part. That part I hate, because if I'm gonna review a movie, and we've reviewed plenty of movies, like, as a group, like, I wanna be authentic in what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So if if a company is like, oh yeah, we'll give you such and such, get positive reviews, and I don't like the movie, like, that would hurt me to my core, because if it's really that bad, like, I gotta, like, I feel like I have a need to point out, like, why I feel like it's bad. You know what I'm saying? And I don't even like negative reviews, but if something's that bad, I feel like people have to know and be prepared for it. You know,
why do you think they interview you?
I would never, in my case, I wouldn't tell anybody not to see a movie, but I will point out if something's bad in it, you know, and it could just be me, but I'm gonna point it out there. But if you're getting paid, like, you can't even do that. So you got to smile and,
bro, the money's still there. And the thing is, critics don't work for the movie studios. You know, they're not being invited there by PR. They're being invited there by the people that they work for. You know, So it was like a big thing to where sometimes nowadays critics would be taken off mailing list. Editorials would get taken off a mailing list because they were writing negative reviews for a studio. So say for instance, well, I just saw this this comment just pop up on YouTube saying that The Flash early reviews praised it as the best movie, but now it seems more of a disappointment thanks to the early reviews of the movie. Now I was going to bring this up.
That's what I said.
I was going to bring this up because now, if you think about it, there was two very distinct examples of this working and then this totally not fucking working. One happened to be Barbie. Barbie, it fucking worked.
Yeah.
$1 billion movie already.
Yeah.
Social media campaign came out, what I'd say 2 weeks before the movie even dropped. So there's a comment right there. So that was for The Flash. But Barbie came out 2 weeks prior. They did screenings everywhere. As a matter of fact, they had a screening at the casino that I worked at. You know, they had a screening for Barbie at Ocean Casino and literally showed it to a bunch of high rollers.
What?
And literally the PR team and the marketing team that worked at the casino had an early screening for Barbie right there. Then they did all these events at the pools. They did another event at like not at the nightclub, but at one of the bars and everything downstairs. Had all this shit planned out, and it was a full day experience for Barbie. And that's just one thing. That's one thing, and that was in all places where we live at in Atlantic City.
Right.
You know, so
it's crazy.
All in all, they won that shit to the point where when the critics actually like got to it, I mean, no, the critics actually liked it too. That's almost like the second thing that's coming. It's like, okay, the influencers loved it so much, and we just got to take their opinion with a grain of salt. And then when the critics actually like finally get into it, they could either destroy the fuck out of it, or they could be like, you know what, this is actually okay. The message is really good, and we really fuck with this. And then all of a sudden, like the box office teeters even more. But with The Flash, and what they basically just said in that comment, The Flash coming out, it was weird. It was really fucking weird. Why?
It was paying people off, bro.
Because celebrities were coming out of the woodwork. People that don't necessarily say shit about shit. Stephen King. Stephen King.
Jaden Smith.
Best movie I've seen ever. Tom Cruise. Your boy Jorge. Yes. They paid your boy.
Damn, must have been a lot of money
to say some beautiful shit about the Flash. And what was the speculation about Flash in the long run is that it was almost a prototype for a lot of the AI that was being put out there. So if it was going to be praised to be damned, and the people like, oh, well, 75% of that movie was AI, I'd be like, oh my God, we got to do more of this shit. No, it was trash.
James, did you think that the movie studio thought the movie was going to be ass? That's why they paid these celebrities off?
Yes.
They saw the test screening.
This is not the first time. This is not the first time they realized a movie was going to be trash and they tried to talk it up. Like they've done this multiple times within just the DC EU period. Like,
Green Lantern.
They've done this multiple times. WB, number one, they screw with the original cuts of these films because they get so worried, like it's not perfect, it doesn't compare to Marvel, we have to tweak it up, and then they turn the movie into a dumpster fire. Then they get people to praise it, and then we go see it and we're disappointed. It happens almost every time. Like,
so that's right. They knew Barbie was going to be such a hit that they put extra money in promotions, I'm sure, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So you brought it. See, Jorge brought up a good point. They put extra money in the promotions, right? You go to The Flash, the budget was 200 mil plus whatever marketing they put involved. So they did not have enough money into the budget to make that film as even as great as they thought, or not even thought, as they tried to project it to us that it would be. They did not even have the budget money to even have a film that great. But they paid people off or whatever they needed to get celebrities to get behind it. Oh, people came out crying and this, that, and the fifth.
Yeah.
It's just like, damn, man. Like, and people like me, I sit there and be like, nah, they bullshit. Nah, maybe it is. And then we go, and then I'm like disappointed.
Yeah.
No,
So now,
Hobbs, you thought the movie was great, but you needed 2 days to digest.
like, it's just if it's the critics, if it's the critics tearing down the movie, which I'm pretty sure, and I guess you could bring it up. Maybe they limited the critics for the Flash, right? So they limited the critics because the critics would have gave us some authentic reviews of that film, and since they did that, they just rolled with the punches with the Tom Cruises and the Stephen Kings, and they suckered everybody in for the 5th time. So it's just weird, bro. Like the influencers being paid is weird. Studios paying celebrities is weird.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. Like, look, not every movie's gonna hit.
Yeah.
And you just gotta put your art out there and just let that be that. Like, it's okay to put your art out there, and either the people are gonna love it or they're gonna dislike it.
Yeah.
Like,
so Ralphie, do you feel like the film studios are trying to control the narrative?
I mean, they are, but at the same time as well, too, I think it kind of brings it back to, again, it's the power of the people, and it's the power of how, I guess, the people can portray it. Because as you kind of just stated, and I'm like listening and I'm like thinking in my head, like, these studios have the power to kind of, again, put the image that they want to put. And let's just say there happens to be maybe like 2 people that are in there. And again, that example that you had, like, you're in front of a camera, you put it on the spot, and somebody's like, you know what? It really wasn't all that, et cetera, et cetera. It's cool and all, like, yeah, but they won't show you. They'll just simply clip you out and put in somebody else who's in there. And so you're going to be like, well, there's only about 10 people in there. Why was it only 9 interviews showed? Oh, well, I guess you're just the only negative one, isn't it? But this is where, again, it comes back into, like, again, it's really more of the power of the people type of thing. Because take, for example, the best I personally feel is the best example is Sonic. Remember how Sonic, when it first came out, how he looked, and it was just like, it was just a pure no. But
they had to scrap the Sonic design.
Yeah, because social media basically brought up the fact that he looked ugly. He looked like a fucking male rat, like a human rat.
The masses said no. We're not doing
it. But you take what happened over there, and it's like, well, why can't the studios, again, if you want to pay all these influencers, whatever the case may be, why don't you just listen to your fan base? You kind of said, like, put the art out there and accept for the art for what it is. Or else, if you don't feel like the art is going to be there, is going to be what it is, listen to your fan base. Because as powerful it is to say some good stuff, is as powerful it is to listen to get to the direction that you want. But what do you think is happening? They don't listen. And again, now you have Stephen Hawking and Tom Cruise.
Whoa,
from the grave?
From the grave?
From the grave?
Yeah. From the grave. Players mess up.
The players mess up too. I was like, okay.
But you have, like, these people, like I said, are just, at no point is like you would entice yourself to see this movie. So why would you say something like that? And it's just like you just watch these studios just shoot themselves in the foot, and you're just like, why can't you just listen to us?
Yeah,
why?
That's funny because
I was going to say, but even so we're basically saying that influencers are also being influenced by these movie studios because you're getting free shit, you're getting merch, you're going to get new movie tickets, and it's possible branding deals to actually work with the studio. And then it pretty much a few weeks ago when the strike started, all that shit got taken away. And who got left with their dick in their hands was the influencers and the content creators, because it was almost like the shit that I do to make money has now been completely stripped away from me. And what can I do at this point? So at the end of the day, do the studios now feel as though they're entitled to the movie critics? Because the movie critics that work for these editorials are not saying shit about movies that are coming out. They're not doing their regular movie reviews and their critiques. But yet now the content creators are now getting a little bit too preachy, maybe per se, for a lot of these movie studios. And do they feel like as though they need to deal with them because it's pretty much free labor?
Yep. That's why, because I brought up a point a couple of years ago. Again, these content creators, social media influencers, they created a smear campaign. Remember when the Star is Born, the Gaga army, they went and said that Venom was trash?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what I think that, the social media can turn into the worst too.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen the worst of that happening because some of the influencers that are basically based in those type of styles. Here we go, Batman and Superman. So Batman and Superman reviews was an early example of how some critics disliked the movie, but some fans went hard against the critics before the movie was released. Perfect example because of one person in particular who started a fucking cult, Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Well, here they come.
So this is somebody who has a diehard following that will go to any movie that this man puts out. So much so that when he was given the reins at DC to create the universe that he wanted in his own image.
Yep.
Well, they literally they were almost as bad as Beyonce fans. They were almost as bad as Nicki Minaj's fans. They were the worst of the worst. Like if you said anything bad about Batman versus Superman, you said anything about Justice League. I mean, goddamn, Justice League. The fact that they switched them and they bitched so hard that they finally got their wish and it came out. And then people were still like, yo, that shit. And they were like, no, this is what we needed. And you took it from us.
That's right. Associate producers.
3 to 4 hours of movie making.
I can't believe it.
It should have came out with that version first, number one. But
period.
But true.
We have this.
I will say that. But when is the audience allowed to definitely just think critically about the movies that they're watching? No, it was okay. So, E. Bradley, good to see you again. I think people will praise a bad movie because they don't want to feel bad about spending money on it.
Nah, fuck that.
If I spend money on it, I'm definitely saying some horrible stuff.
That's right.
My hard-earned money.
Yeah.
Again, I've watched all Fast and Furious films. There's nothing that you can take away from me. I spend my money.
There's a whole grown human being that catches cars.
Like
those movies are great. God dang it.
It's still in the top 5. Still top 5 right now.
Idris Elba was a whole superhero, and nobody said shit.
He was the first recorded mutant in that universe, right?
Just wait till John Cena comes back in the sequel.
Oh my god!
But you couldn't see him in the first one.
Couldn't see him in the first.
the Rock, and a bunch of Samoans beat up a whole team of armed mercenaries.
We don't acknowledge that film. We don't acknowledge it.
That movie was just called The Rock.
That was a side
with Jason Statham.
That was Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah, but let me dive into your minds real quick. Do you feel as though movie critics are pessimistic or frustrating in how they've done things lately, and that's the reason that basically movie studios was like, we need more positivity talked about amongst our films?
No, studios are trying. It goes back to what I'm saying. They're not making the money that they did before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing anything possible to get people to come out and see the film. At this point, they're doing it to the point where it don't even matter if the movie is good or not. They just want people to spend the money. But at the end of the day, if you have a good film, regardless of how much money is made, like people, if it's a film franchise that's most likely going to get a sequel, like they're gonna, if they didn't show out the first one, but it's a good film, they will come back for the sequel. Like that is proven. That is all you have to do is have good content. If your movie is good, and what's example, right? Let's take the MCU, right? Take the MCU when they first started, right? So when the MCU first started, they wasn't making the billions of dollars and stuff.
It was not.
It was not. It was, they had to build trust, right? And it was still a shaky trust because Iron Man 1 was good, Hulk was lame. Iron Man 2, entertaining, not good. Then you had Thor, okay, good. Captain America, really good. But it built up trust. Like, oh, the films are being taken serious.
Like,
They're respecting the source material. Like, they started building momentum. So by the time we got to Avengers, everybody couldn't wait to see all these characters come together, right? Yeah. And that was the birth of what the MCU is, because right after that, Iron Man 3, which is definitely split with people to I don't like it, it was weird, or it was cool. Like, it was split, but it still made $1 billion because now the MCU has built that trust. Now fast forward to today, the MCU, while has had not their best movies lately, let's say like the last 5-6 films haven't been the best as a group,
still made money.
They're still making money. People are still we're all I know I am, but that Deadpool 3 movie, people, once this strike is over, that's what the people want. Know that. It's true. That's going to make some money. So it's not like that's going to end. You have to build trust with your fan base. But by building trust, you have to make quality films, and you have to make enough quality films for people to keep coming back. So that's what it comes down to. You can pay influencers. You can try to keep the critics away from seeing reviews, and you can try all that. But at the end of the day, if you lie about a movie like The Flash and say it's this, that, and the fifth, you're going to get an angry fan base. And look what happened. The Flash didn't make they didn't make their money back. They didn't make their money back. Like, they took a loss. They took a loss because they were not truthful about. They didn't even have to say it was the greatest movie of all time. Like, that's the thing. They went to such of an extreme to say, "Oh, this movie is so great. Oh my God." It's like, all right, now you raise people's expectations. So regardless if the movie was good or not, most people were disappointed because you're literally saying this is an Avengers Endgame type movie, Avengers Infinity War type movie. Like, I'm talking about as great as it was, right? Yeah. So if you're raising it to that standard, it don't matter if it was just okay, it was average, it was people are more so than not, I found, and I'm one of them. It was just disappointing. It's just disappointing, and now we don't. Well, it's not like we trusted WB and DC anyway, but we damn sure don't trust y'all. And wait, is the Blue Beetle movie out? Is it out?
No,
I can't even keep up. I don't know when it comes out.
It's actually this Friday.
Yeah. So you see already that they're already coming out with, movie's entertaining, it's funny, da. Like, it's setting it up. Now, the only difference is they didn't put greatest movie ever, this, that, and the fifth. But they're saying, oh, it's entertaining, it's funny, and stuff like that. So now that's the level of expectation. So now people are gonna come into this movie like, all right, maybe we'll laugh a little bit and it's entertaining. It should be okay. But the level of the movie, like, people are not going to be expecting great. So at the very least, they didn't go to that route. So now people, if it's an average movie, people are going to think, oh, okay, that's not bad. But they're not going to come in saying it's an average movie and just be like, oh, it's trash. Because that's what happens. You say a movie's great, it's average, it's trash. You say a movie's like, oh, it's entertaining and it's average, like, oh yeah, it's a decent film. So if you're following a film and you're following like reviews or what they're saying, like, you're going to go into a film thinking this is the level that this movie needs to be at. Right. So it doesn't really matter how good the movie is. Now you have an expectation of it. So if Blue Beetle is okay and it matches the reviews, DC can get a little bit of the trust back. Like, all right. But if it's a trash movie, and he said it was entertaining and it's trash, I don't know, man. They might
People love
Stick
the
to
dog
anime.
on DC. Go ahead, Ralph. You had something to say.
So I was gonna say, to kind of like coincide that, because I feel like Venom played like a role into that. You know, remember when Venom kind of came out, and Sony especially as well too. You know, when they have a film, it's always like this fumble. It's like, I'm expecting you to fumble. So I would say, you know, to kind of like contrast with that, like I feel like Venom plays a role where, yeah, they needed the mass to be behind it. Tom Hardy, especially, like, be a little bit more proactive, because if you were watching, like, if you were on social media, it was like a lot of Venom stuff that was being out there, and then you had the critics that went out there. They said, you know, the movie's not that bad, and it was entertaining.
Yep.
That if Blue Beetle, because again, that's where my mind frame is going with this next one. They're not doing a lot of the praise and praise promotions. They're just giving you like a little droplet, which almost seems like they got rid of whoever the marketing team was before, and they're like, "You're all fired. Get out. Get out." And there's just one person there that's like, "All right, I'm just gonna say it's entertaining.
Yeah.
Let's go this route." That's basically where it's at. Where it's like, you're good. What you just said is like, I'm gonna go in there with the expectation, like, you know what, it might be a good film. And if it's not, hey, listen, I'm gonna take my loss. It is what it is. So it's, yeah.
I'm all for the less is more philosophy. You know, you show me a trailer and you show me the most minuscule amount possible so that I'm not watching the entire movie. I felt like when the Flash trailer came out, people were like, yo, this trailer is fucking amazing. It's really fucking good. And then it turned out like, damn, that was really the whole fucking movie, right?
It was the whole film.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with E. Bradley. He's saying underselling it to make an okay seem great. But to actually like bring this all together, like how can we make it though? Because of the new world that we live in social media, it being a living, breathing thing that's attached to a lot of movies that are coming out lately. How do we have movie critics and social media influencers coexist in the marketing of a movie?
The thing is I would kind of go based off of what you kind of just said. It's just based off of a trust, and it begins with trust with, you know, the people that you're following, the people that do these reviews, etc., etc. If you trust that, you know, the way that they're doing their reviews is, you know, reputable to you, then, you know, I feel as if, you know, as a kind of like as a society, we'll progress. Like the movies will do great. It's not, I don't even think, like I said, it's more based off of, you know, movie critics, because I don't believe social media will ever kill them off.
Yeah.
It's just these companies have to stop, again, planting, however that they're planting these industry plants into projecting what the film is supposed to be, and allowing to, like what you said, let your art breathe, and let it flourish or let it die.
Yep. And I agree with what Sirix is saying. Basically, the Marvel movie was blasted by critics. The influencers loved it. Influencers were right. It was another $1 billion movie. Yeah. It's also taken into the fact that like a movie like Elemental, which was the Pixar movie that was just released last, did horrible opening week. Horrible. It was the lowest. The lowest quantity or estimation for a box office in opening week for Pixar of all time. Then all of a sudden, Elemental goes overseas.
Yep.
And starts making buku dollars, like crazy amounts of money. So it goes into that old little like telltale sign that there's still a game around for movies to actually have longer runs, for people to watch it like a few times, for more people to get eyes on it, and actually have a good consumption of it, to say, you know what, this is actually dope. People were wrong the first time.
Yeah.
Like people do listen to albums twice.
Yeah.
I hated the first listen, and the second time I heard that, I was like, okay, I get it now. This shit is really dope.
Wait, but the thing is, like, God forbid, what if a critic comes, watches this movie, or influencer, and they come in with a bad mood, and of course that's going to alter.
I think that's the same for anybody, unless you're getting paid.
So who the hell do you believe? You got to go to your own damn self and watch it.
If you fill a movie theater with half influencers and half movie critics, the influencers were paid, and then you're going to have basically the movie critics who are there from their publications, all sitting there in the next row being absolutely critical of the movie. You're actually going to get a decent look at what the movie actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
With Mario, the influencers loved it because it stuck to the, it looked the
It stuck
part.
to the format.
It looked the part.
The same can be said for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that just came out.
Dude,
like
I did not see a trailer for that movie. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I saw it a week ago, maybe a week ago Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Dog, loved the movie. Did not know they were gonna go that route.
Bro.
Like, it was awesome. I did not know like the turtles were gonna be kitty like that was awesome.
Bro,
like,
the whole point, and just to stop you there, I'm sorry, but Seth Rogen, and this is a sidebar. Seth Rogen has been attached to a few projects that were all comic books, whether it's been Preacher, Invincible, The Boys, and now Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where he actually focused on the fact that they are still teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and made a kid-like movie, which was Nickelodeon based, and fucking made a killer ass movie. So it's only been out a week. It's already done 100 million in global box office. So you got to give the man his flowers now, because he's been taking over executive producer on some properties, IPs, and has been knocking them out the park. So was it E. Bradley just basically said, do y'all think influencers can be bought like some DJs in the music industry? Absolutely.
Yes.
They are.
Yes.
They are.
He's on. Yeah.
So another example was Transformers: Rise of the Beast. So we have been pre-screened in our brains with Transformers movies, these Michael Bay movies, where they've gotten a little too goddamn extreme.
This one was a pleasant surprise, though.
That's what I'm saying. So the Michael Bay movies, whether it was Last Night or
they just got really, really ridiculous.
Not saying like Dark Side of the Moon, because that was pretty okay. Then Marky Mark got involved, and then the Bumblebee movie was only good for 10 minutes, and the rest of it was trash.
Yeah,
But the thing is, Rise of the Beast actually introduced what Transformers, Beast Mode.
Beast Wars. Yeah.
So with the introduction of that, I mean, it was pretty much a home run.
Yeah.
So it ended up being like a good goddamn story.
Yeah, they did good. They did good.
They did a very good job on that. And no, the critics hate Transformers. I feel as though the separation between social media influencers and the critics are looking for the art of the film and the love of cinema to be elevated on this high ass platform. And then social media influencers are there for the popular film. Like, this is the popular IP. I'm here for the popular film. I want to see they hit it out the ballpark, and I'm going to blow it up on my feeds.
Yeah.
And that's generally what happens.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Special genre films. That's where those influencers are.
Because none of that shit's going to the Oscars. I mean, Black Panther was like a small example of a movie that like actually transcended and went to the Oscars, but that doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, that's not even
the most popular movie, the one that makes the big bucks. Like, we're probably not going to see anybody from Barbie get nominated. Maybe like the costume design or some bullshit like that. But none of the actors. What, you gonna think Ryan Gosling is going to get Best Actor over? You know what I'm saying? Over Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible is not going to get no Oscar nominations or anything like that, and we know that.
Yeah,
but the thing is, if you got Mario Brothers, which pulled in $1 billion, which is probably going to get maybe like the Oscar for like best child's best animation feature. Animation feature, maybe at best, because Across the Spider-Verse is still right there.
For sure.
And they won the last time.
That's still the best.
The look of the aesthetics of that movie is fucking awesome.
That's the movie of the year.
Popular IPs are a gun show. How big can you make it? How powerful can you make it? And how far does it shoot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would like to say that we can even separate the influencers, because you got the paid, whether it's paid through actual funds or paid through incentives,
exposure,
right? So you got those influencers. So, but you also have the other influencers that turn into movie critics that are not paid by the studio, that still that still review these films and still have a following. So you have two groups of influencers, and then you have critics, right? So to me, it's three groups.
It's true. No, you're absolutely right.
It's three groups.
Yeah.
It's paid influencers. It's the influencers that this is just what they do. And then you have the actual critics, who I want to say / reporters, because they're more, let's call them more professional, right? So that's where that lives. So if I'm just a moviegoer, right? If I'm what I would take, and I like to see reviews before I go to a film, I would like a few reviews from each one of those groups, right? Take a few reviews from each one of the groups, analyze the reviews as you see fit, and then make your decision if you're going to go see that movie or not. Yeah, like it's really that simple. I think there's a space for all three of those groups, and they all have something. Yeah, we could do jammies. Go ahead. Do the jammies.
But there's actually a means of ways for it to coexist.
Yeah, there's room for all that. The only thing with the only thing is the paid group. They're not. I would take, if you had to like rank them, you got to rank them last, because there's a purpose behind it, right? There's a purpose where if you're just a professional critic, like you're just doing what you do, right? And yeah, you might already have some pre idea. Like they might go into a movie like, oh, this is going to suck. It might write a bad review anyway, but they're not being influenced by anybody else. That's just their mind, right? Yeah. So you might get an authentic review. You might get an opinionated review that might have some prejudice, not in a bad way, but might have prejudice because it's like, oh, this director has done these films and this is how his films are. So they might already have an idea in their head how the movie's going to go, right? So you got that, but then you have the influencers, that group that is not a professional critic per se, but they're going to review the film, they're going to talk about the film, they might have a following and stuff like that. So yeah, like I said, I would take all those reviews and then make a decision if you're that type of moviegoer.
Yeah,
makes sense to me.
Yeah,
they have a space. They all deserve some love in some type of way. But it's those paid influencers that they only work if the movie actually comes out to be good.
Yeah.
And if it's not, they can run risk of people unfollowing because they're not being truthful and authentic. So there's still a space. There's a thin line for those paid influencers to keep promoting a movie. But if they keep promoting, if they have a list of films that, oh yeah, this movie's great, oh, come out, see this movie, they're like 4 movies in and it's like none of these movies are good, they're going to lose their following, because now you're losing that trust. So there's a thin line between, let me work with the studio, get my money, but reviewing bad films, because eventually if you lose your following, the studio's probably not going to fuck with you anymore.
True.
So it's, at the end of the day, being real and authentic, I think is still gonna shine through. So
yeah, at the end of the day, I think the shit is gonna hit the fan when the writer's strike and the actor strike actually like negotiates and everybody is back on the even playing field. You're gonna see who's who and what is what with a lot of the cats that are doing content creation, because of how they were blasted in such a fashion. And then what are the studios going to do going forth for these people? Because were they on our side in the beginning, or necessarily are the actors are going to make sure that they're never seen again, because the actors have more influence than the content creators themselves. Yeah. So that's going to be a big dilemma going forth. But this was great. This was a good panel. I appreciate everybody for being here. So for myself, James Grandmaster Effects Boys, Ralphie, Haas, Jorge, Party
Love
Nerd
the shades, Ralphie.
Here
Love the shades, brother.
No,
listen, I
shades.
Take them damn things off.
I'll bring them back next episode.